Hi, I'm B from Nectar Mechanics, and on today's video, we're going to be making the train from the new Minecraft Live trailer. So to kick things off, I should probably explain what this even is. About a week or two ago now, as I'm recording this, the new Minecraft Live trailer has came out. This is for the 2022 edition, and as I'm recording, we have no idea what the next mob vote's going to be, what the update's going to be. All we have is this one amazing trailer done by Element Animation that has dancing frogs, goats. It's just amazing. And at the end of that trailer, all the mobs get into a minecart train and ride off to Minecraft Live. And I think it is the coolest and cutest thing, and I want that on my shelf. So let's have a go, shall we? Originally, I thought about making the minecarts out of carved foam, but in the end I decided that it should be easier to just use cereal box cardboard and actually cut them out like a net. And a net is where you take a 2D shape and you cut it out and you can fold it into the 3D shape. So I got to work and I had 5 of these to do, and I didn't want to print out or make any fancy template doodads or whatever, so I just measured out roughly the correct dimensions I wanted, cut the first one, and then would trace that to then cut the second one, and then I'd trace that. So by the end of it, they were looking a bit different from each other, but I thought that's kind of part of the style. We're doing this out of like handcrafted things, so I think it's kind of cute to just lean into that rather than against it. Now I did use a hole puncher for little wheels in the minecart, but that was a waste of time. They immediately snapped off, so don't bother doing that if you try this. So the minecarts are really easy, they're just boxes, so we're gonna get straight to work on the rail, because they need a rail to be on next to the train. And so I just used a sheet of cardboard cut out into the right length that I wanted of all the minecarts pushed together. Then I would get matchsticks, and I would hot glue those all in a line, and then to get the ones that wanted to be evenly spaced apart, I just used my ruler and measured out 5mm gaps each notch, and then would glue a matchstick there. And while this works really nicely, it took me about an hour of just gluing matchsticks in a line, so it works, but it's time consuming. Now the rails are basically there, I want to make a grass platform for them to be on. I don't want it to just be the rails, it seems a bit meh, and I quite like my dioramas. So what I did is I got a sheet of cardboard once again, and then actually hot glued tinfoil and newspaper onto it to create a vague, rocky, lumpy platform that would be about the right shape. Once I had it how I liked it, I flattened the top so that I know the rail would definitely fit on it, and then I covered the entire thing in clay. Now I learnt this technique from a tutorial by WishcraftsPH, I'll put a link in the description, and basically what you got is like tweezers, and you essentially pulled the clay into all these tiny little spikes, and then once you'd done about 100 of those or so, it started to have a vaguely grassy look. It's not anywhere near as good as if you used flock or static grass or that sort of stuff, but I didn't have any of that, and this looked quite nice as well. Now for the mobs themselves. Now, even though there's huge amount of them on the video, I'm only doing the first 5 because I don't have enough resources or space to store that. So that means you're going to be doing 3 frogs, a goat, a zombie, and a cow. Now, while they're all very different mobs, aside from the frogs, I am going to be making them all basically the same way. So what I'm saying applies to all of them. So what I do is I start off like I do with all my clay projects. I get a little tiny blob of tinfoil as a skeleton and a filler piece. Then I would surround that in a blob of clay, and slowly but surely, adding and taking away, I would sculpt it into the vague shape I wanted. It was a little tricky trying to figure out how much of this is going to be like as close to the game as I can, and in the end I decided, let's not go for a one-to-one accuracy, let's just make it look sort of handmade. This meant that they were allowed to be a little bit lumpy, as I am not the best with the tools. Some of them were a little bit trickier because if I did them exactly true to game, such as the cow, they're just a square. So what I ended up doing is I would take inspiration from the real animals, so that's why the cow's got snouts and the horns and stuff. It just helps them look a bit less like a boring cube. The zombie, he did kind of have a bit of a Playmobil face on the go with that smile. Look at that smile. He's very happy that he's on this train. But I'm okay with that. I think it looks kind of derpy enough that it's cute. It's time to sand it, and I did it in my room because the weather outside was awful and raining, but I made sure I wore a COVID mask, and I also had an air purifier on in the background so I could not get any lung damage. I also made sure that I added some spackle to the minecarts and sanded those at the same time, because that way it was all just going to look a little bit nicer. Once I'd sanded them to how I wanted, it was time to do the painting. Painting is always my favourite, yet hardest part of any project, because I know how it should look, but it takes about 5 coats to get there. Ones like the frogs weren't too bad, but ones like the goat and the cow, they were tricky. For whatever reason, sometimes air dry clay doesn't want to adhere to paint. Like, it's one of those where I could probably still scuff it off now because I didn't use any primer. But sometimes you get weird bits where there's patches where the paint doesn't adhere. So if you look on the cow especially, it's all been coated at the same time with the brand paint, but it's got weird splotches on it, and I don't know what caused that. If you know why, please tell me down in the comments, because it drives me insane on all these projects. For stuff like the minecarts, I use the sponging technique that I learned on my Forgotten Robot cosplay. So that was nice and simple, where I did a black coat, then a silver sponging coat, and then a white sponging coat. And because it's a sponge, all the holes and stuff don't let bits of paint in, and it gives it a really nice texture. Then for stuff like the grass, I did dry brushing, which is just where you do a base coat of the green and then a slightly different shade of green, and you just get most of the paint off, so it's a dry brush. Painting the miniatures themselves after I'd gotten the coats down was still being tricky because I kept smudging it. So what I decided to do is I'd get a matchstick and actually hot glue it to their bum, and that way I could grab them and just spin them all around without smudging anything. Yeah, those frogs do not look happy. So eventually, finally, after like 5 coats, 6 coats, I don't know, I lost track, it all started to come together nicely. So now it was simply a matter of hot gluing the track to the grass, hot gluing the minecarts to each other, gluing them to the track, and then gluing all the mobs into the carts. So, it's all glued together, it's all painted up. I think there's nothing left more now than to just show you the final results. Doesn't that look great? Handmade, sure, but I think it's got a really nice aesthetic. So I hope this inspires you to do some of your own Minecraft clay sculpting. It's a really fun thing to do because as long as you get the silhouettes about there, it's iconic and obvious as to what it is, and it's just so cute. So don't forget to subscribe and tune in next week, as I'm going to be making more Minecraft frogs, but this time I'm putting them in a jar. See you at Minecraft Live. Farewell! And I just think this is the coolest and cutest thing ever, and I want that in my bedroom. Nope, that sounds right. Place you fold of blah 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 blah. So that means I'm going to be doing 3 frogs, a goat. But I wore a COVID mask and I had an air purifier on, so I cannot get any lung damage. I hope this inspires you to do some of your own Minecraft sculpting. I found sculpting?